Don't move! Hands up now! I need you to stay still and follow instructions!
Officer, I'm in a wheelchair. I'm a disabled veteran. I'm not reaching. I can't stand. Please, look at my medal. That's the Purple Heart.
Keep your hands where I can see them!
Stay still, sir. Don't move.
Sir, step out of the wheelchair. The request made no sense. The man sitting in the mobility device outside the Social Security Administration office in Tampa, Florida, couldn't step out. His left leg had been amputated below the knee in Kandahar, Afghanistan in 2011. The prosthetic he wore wasn't designed for sudden movements or compliance with commands shouted by federal agents who had received an anonymous tip about an undocumented immigrant attempting to fraudulently obtain benefits. What happened next was captured on 3 separate cameras: the SSA building's exterior security system, a bystander's cell phone, and the body cameras of 2 immigration and customs enforcement agents who would later claim they feared for their safety from a man who couldn't stand without assistance. The incident lasted 4 minutes and 17 seconds. By the time it ended, a decorated combat veteran with a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star would be face down on concrete, his wheelchair overturned, his prosthetic leg detached, and his faith in the country he'd served shattered in a way that enemy fire never accomplished. The lawsuit that followed would expose how easily federal authority could be weaponized against those who sacrificed the most. How bias could override documentation, credentials, and visible evidence of service. How a phone call from someone who decided a black man in a wheelchair didn't belong could trigger a chain of events ending in $17 million in damages. Before we continue, if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button. These stories need witnesses. Your support ensures they reach the people who need to hear them. Marcus Thompson sat in his wheelchair outside the Social Security Administration office at 10:42 a.m. on March 7, 2024. The morning was already warm, Tampa humidity making the 78-degree temperature feel heavier. He'd arrived for his 10:30 appointment to update his disability benefits information, standard annual verification required by the SSA. The appointment had taken 12 minutes. He'd provided his military discharge papers, his VA disability documentation, his medical records showing the amputation and ongoing treatment. The clerk had been efficient and respectful, thanking him for his service as she processed his paperwork. Marcus had smiled, nodded, and wheeled himself back outside to wait for his wife to pick him up. His wheelchair was a standard VA-issued model, black frame with worn hand rims from daily use. Marcus wore cargo shorts that revealed his prosthetic left leg, the mechanical components visible below the socket. His t-shirt bore the insignia of the 10th Mountain Division. A ball cap with Purple Heart recipient embroidered on the front covered his graying hair. He was checking his phone, texting his wife that he was ready, when the black SUV pulled into the parking lot with deliberate speed. 2 agents emerged, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, though their agency affiliation wasn't immediately visible. Special Agent David Cortez, 29 years old, 6 years with ICE. Special Agent Jennifer Walsh, 33, 8 years on the job. Both wore tactical vests over polo shirts, badges clipped to belts, service weapons visible on their hips. Their body cameras activated automatically as they exited the vehicle, recording everything that would follow. The SSA building's exterior camera, mounted above the entrance, captured a wide angle of the scene. The timestamp read 10:42 and 18 seconds a.m. Cortez approached first, his stride confident, his posture suggesting this was routine. Walsh followed 3 steps behind, her hand resting near her weapon in a position that appeared casual but was tactically deliberate. Marcus looked up from his phone as they approached. His expression was neutral, curious. He'd dealt with federal employees all morning. This seemed like more of the same. "Excuse me, sir," Cortez said, stopping 5 feet from the wheelchair. "We need to speak with you about your immigration status." The words hung in the humid air. Marcus's face shifted from neutral to confused. His eyes moved from Cortez to Walsh, then back. "My what?" Marcus said. "Your immigration status," Cortez repeated, his voice carrying the authority of someone who expected compliance. "We've received information that you may be in this country illegally." We need to see documentation proving your legal right to be here. Marcus Thompson, born in Jacksonville, Florida in 1989, who had enlisted in the United States Army at 19, who had served 2 deployments in Afghanistan, who had lost his leg to an IED while on patrol in Helmand Province, stared at the federal agents with an expression of complete disbelief. "You've got to be kidding me," he said. "I'm a United States citizen," Marcus said, his voice calm but firm. "I was born in Jacksonville. I served in the Army for 8 years. I lost my leg in Afghanistan. What information could you possibly have received?" Cortez pulled out a small notepad, consulting notes he'd written before arriving. "We received a complaint that an individual matching your description was attempting to fraudulently obtain federal benefits. The caller stated you appeared to be foreign-born and were using false documents." "Foreign-born," Marcus repeated slowly. "I'm sitting here wearing a Purple Heart cap. I'm in a wheelchair because I served this country. What part of that seems foreign to you?" Walsh stepped closer, her body camera capturing Marcus's face clearly. "Sir, we just need to verify your status. If you cooperate, this will be quick and simple. Do you have a passport or birth certificate with you?" "I have my driver's license," Marcus said, reaching for his wallet with controlled movements. "I have my military ID. I have my VA disability card. I literally just came from an appointment inside where I provided all my documentation to the federal government. What more do you need?" He extracted his Florida driver's license, his military retiree ID card, and his VA health benefits card. All 3 bore his name, photo, and various official seals and holograms. He held them out. Cortez took the cards, glanced at them briefly, and shook his head. "These don't prove citizenship or legal status. Anyone can obtain a driver's license. We need original documents. Birth certificate or passport." "My passport is at home," Marcus said, his patience beginning to thin. "My birth certificate is in a file cabinet in my home office. I can call my wife right now. She's on her way to pick me up. She can bring them. Or you can call the Department of Defense and verify my entire service record. My social security number is 267-55-8843. Run it. Check it. I've been in government databases since I was 19 years old." "That's not how this works," Cortez said. "You need to come with us for processing and verification at our field office." Marcus felt the familiar tightness in his chest that came with moments of crisis. He'd felt it in Afghanistan before patrols. He felt it now, facing federal agents in a parking lot. "I'm not going anywhere," Marcus said, his voice steady. "I'm a disabled veteran. I'm sitting outside a federal building where I just provided documentation. I haven't committed any crime. Under the 4th Amendment, you need probable cause to detain me." "What's your probable cause?" The SSA security camera captured the shift in Cortez's posture. His shoulders straightened, his jaw tightened. "Refusing to comply with a federal officer conducting an official investigation is obstruction," Cortez said. "You can cooperate voluntarily or we can detain you involuntarily. Your choice." "This is racial profiling," Marcus said, his voice rising slightly. "Someone called in a complaint about a black man and you showed up without doing any investigation. You're looking at a Purple Heart recipient in a wheelchair and demanding I prove I'm American. This is unconstitutional." A woman exiting the SSA building stopped, watching the confrontation. She pulled out her phone, starting to record. Walsh noticed the witness. "Ma'am, please move along. This is official federal business." "I'm standing on public property," the woman said. "I have a right to observe." Cortez turned back to Marcus. "Sir, stand up and come with us. Now." "I can't stand up," Marcus said, his voice incredulous. "I have one leg. Are you not seeing the wheelchair? Are you not seeing the prosthetic?" "Step out of the wheelchair," Cortez ordered. "Step out of the wheelchair," Cortez repeated, louder this time. Marcus stared at him. "I physically cannot step out. I'm an amputee. The wheelchair isn't a choice. It's mobility equipment. I need it to move." Walsh circled to Marcus's side, her body camera capturing his prosthetic leg clearly. the mechanical components impossible to miss. She had to see it. The footage would later prove she looked directly at it. "Sir, you need to comply with our instructions," Walsh said. "Place your hands where we can see them." "My hands are right here," Marcus said, holding them up, palms out. "I'm not resisting anything. I'm telling you I'm a United States citizen. I'm telling you I'm a combat veteran. I'm telling you I have documentation at home that I can provide. What law am I breaking by sitting here?" The woman with the phone moved closer, her recording capturing audio clearly. "He's in a wheelchair," she called out. "Why are you harassing a disabled veteran?" "Ma'am, final warning," Walsh said without looking at her. "Move away or you'll be detained for interference." More people were stopping now. An elderly man coming out of the SSA building. A couple walking across the parking lot. All of them pulling out phones, all of them recording. Cortez's radio crackled. Dispatch checking on their status. He keyed the mic. "We have a subject refusing to comply with immigration verification. Requesting supervisor to location." "Supervisor en route," the dispatcher responded. "ETA 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Marcus calculated quickly. His wife was 15 minutes away when he'd texted her. If he could just wait for the supervisor, maybe someone with more sense would arrive. "I'll wait for your supervisor," Marcus said. "I'm happy to speak with them. I'm not going anywhere until then." "That's not your decision to make," Cortez said. He moved closer, reaching for Marcus's arm. Marcus pulled back instinctively. "Don't touch me. I know my rights. You don't have probable cause. You don't have a warrant. You have an anonymous complaint that's clearly racist, and you're using it to violate my constitutional rights." "You're resisting," Cortez said, his voice sharp. He grabbed Marcus's wrist. What happened next unfolded in seconds, captured from 3 angles. Marcus tried to pull his arm free. Cortez interpreted this as resistance. Walsh moved to Marcus's other side, grabbing his other arm. Marcus, operating on instincts from military training and self-preservation, tried to will backward. "Stop resisting," Walsh shouted. Though the cameras showed Marcus wasn't fighting, just trying to move away. Cortez grabbed the wheelchair, tipping it to prevent Marcus from moving. The angle shifted. Marcus, off balance, tried to brace himself. "You're going to flip me," Marcus yelled. "Stop. You're going to hurt me." Cortez didn't stop. He pulled harder on Marcus's arm, trying to extract him from the wheelchair. Walsh grabbed Marcus's shoulder, adding her force. The wheelchair tipped. Marcus, unable to stabilize himself with one leg, fell sideways. His prosthetic leg caught on the wheelchair frame, the socket twisting, pulling loose. He hit the concrete shoulder first. The impact was captured clearly on all 3 cameras. The sound of his body hitting pavement, his grunt of pain, his prosthetic leg detaching completely, still caught in the wheelchair frame. "Stop," Marcus gasped. "My leg. You broke my leg off." Cortez and Walsh didn't stop. They forced Marcus face down on the concrete, his arms pulled behind his back, his cheek pressed against the pavement, his prosthetic lying 3 feet away. "You're under arrest for resisting a federal officer," Cortez said, pulling handcuffs from his belt. "I can't breathe," Marcus said, his voice muffled against concrete. "You're on my back. I can't breathe." The woman recording was screaming now. "He's disabled. He's a veteran. What are you doing?" Other voices joined hers. "Call the police." "He's not resisting. He can't even stand up." Walsh looked up at the growing crowd. Everyone moved back. This is a federal law enforcement operation. Nobody moved back. More phones appeared. More witnesses. The handcuffs closed around Marcus's wrists, the metal tight against his skin. Cortez's knee was in Marcus's back, holding him down. "My leg," Marcus said again, his voice breaking. "Please, my prosthetic leg. I need it." "You'll get it back after processing," Cortez said. They hauled Marcus up, each agent grabbing an arm. Marcus couldn't stand. He had one leg and no prosthetic. He hopped on his right leg, held up by 2 federal agents, his body weight supported by their grip on his arms. The woman recording caught it all. A one-legged veteran, handcuffed, being dragged across a parking lot, while his prosthetic leg lay abandoned next to an overturned wheelchair. "This is wrong," someone in the crowd yelled. "This is so wrong." The SSA security footage showed the supervisor's vehicle arriving at 10:58 a.m. 16 minutes after initial contact. Too late. Marcus was already in the back of the IC vehicle, handcuffed, separated from the front seat by a barrier, his face wet with tears he couldn't wipe away. His wheelchair and prosthetic leg remained on the ground where they'd fallen. Marcus Thompson wasn't just a veteran. His service record told a story that should have made the anonymous complaint laughable on its face. Born Marcus Anthony Thompson on February 3, 1989 in Jacksonville, Florida, to a nurse and a high school teacher. American citizen by birth, fourth-generation Floridian, descendant of ancestors who'd lived in the South since before the Civil War. Enlisted in the United States Army on August 12, 2007 at age 18. Assigned to the 10th Mountain Division, Fort Drum, New York. Deployed to Afghanistan in 2009 for his first combat tour. Returned in 2010. Deployed again in 2011. On June 23, 2011, Specialist Marcus Thompson was on patrol in Helmand Province when his unit was ambushed. During the firefight, he had dragged 2 wounded soldiers to cover, exposing himself to enemy fire. After securing his fellow soldiers, he'd continued fighting until the insurgents withdrew. The citation for his Bronze Star with Valor device described his actions in clinical military language that couldn't capture the chaos, the fear, or the split-second decisions that saved lives. 2 days later, on June 25, 2011, Marcus's patrol hit an improvised explosive device. The blast destroyed the vehicle's undercarriage. 3 soldiers were injured. Marcus suffered catastrophic damage to his left leg below the knee. Field medics applied tourniquets. A medevac helicopter extracted him to Kandahar. Surgeons at the field hospital fought to save the leg, but the damage was too severe. Amputation below the knee, performed on June 26, 2011. Marcus received the Purple Heart for wounds received in combat. The medal sat in a shadow box in his living room, next to his Bronze Star, next to a folded American flag presented to him at his medical retirement ceremony. He'd spent 18 months in physical therapy and rehabilitation at Walter Reed Medical Center, learning to walk with a prosthetic, dealing with phantom pain, processing the psychological trauma of losing a limb and watching friends die. Medically retired from the Army in 2013 with full disability benefits. Honorable discharge. 8 years of service. 2 combat deployments. Permanent physical disability in service to his country. He'd moved back to Tampa, close to family. Enrolled in community college using his GI Bill benefits. Earned an associate degree in computer science. Met his wife, Christina, a teacher at a veterans support group. Married in 2016. 2 children, ages 6 and 4. He'd built a normal life around his disability. Working part-time as a web developer from home. Attending his kids' school events. Volunteering with wounded veteran organizations. Living quietly with the physical and psychological scars of service. All of this was documented. In military databases. In VA files. In Social Security Administration records. In the very building where he'd just completed his appointment before being detained. The agents hadn't checked any of it. They'd responded to an anonymous call about a black man in a wheelchair and assumed guilt. They'd seen his military ID and dismissed it. They'd seen his Purple Heart cap and ignored it. They'd seen his prosthetic leg and demanded he stand up anyway. Marcus Thompson's identity wasn't hidden. It was on display, literally visible, documented, and verified. The agents had chosen not to see it. At the ICE field office, they deposited Marcus in a holding room. Still handcuffed. Still without his prosthetic leg. Still unable to stand or move without assistance. A processing officer entered at 11:34 a.m. According to facility logs, Marcus was sitting in a standard plastic chair, his right leg supporting his weight, his left stump visible where his shorts ended. the socket scars from the prosthetic fitting clearly evident. "Name," the officer said, pulling up a computer terminal. "Marcus Anthony Thompson," Marcus said, his voice flat with exhaustion and anger. "Social Security number 267-55-8843. Date of birth, February 3, 1989. United States citizen, born in Jacksonville, Florida. United States Army veteran, medically retired due to combat-related amputation. Is there anything else you need, or can I get my wheelchair and my leg back now?" The processing officer typed the information. The database response appeared within 30 seconds. Marcus Thompson, U.S. citizen by birth. SSN issued Florida, 1989. Military service 2007 to 2013. Honorable discharge, medical retirement. Purple Heart recipient. Bronze Star recipient. VA disability rating 100% permanent and total. No criminal record. No immigration violations because he was a natural-born citizen who had served his country and lost a limb doing so. The processing officer stared at the screen. His face went pale. "Sir," he said carefully, "there appears to have been a mistake." "A mistake," Marcus repeated. "You think." The officer left the room. Through the door, Marcus could hear raised voices. Cortez, Walsh, a supervisor. The words Purple Heart and amputee. "And this is bad," carrying clearly. The supervisor, District Director Patricia Hendricks, entered the holding room at 11:47 a.m. She looked at Marcus, at his missing leg, at the handcuffs still on his wrists, and closed her eyes briefly. "Mr. Thompson, I'm removing these handcuffs immediately," she said, producing a key. "I apologize for this situation. There has been a serious error." "Error?" Marcus said as the handcuffs came off. "Your agents tackled a disabled veteran in a wheelchair. They ripped off my prosthetic leg. They arrested me in front of witnesses for being black at a Social Security office. That's not an error. That's assault. That's a civil rights violation. That's exactly the kind of federal overreach that destroys lives." Hendricks had no response. The evidence was already overwhelming and she knew it. The anonymous complaint, retrieved from records, was identical to a pattern ICE had been warned about repeatedly. Foreign-looking individual attempting to access benefits. No specific identifying information. No evidence. Just bias translated into a federal response. The SSA security footage showed everything. The approach. The ID rejection. The escalation. The wheelchair being tipped. Marcus hitting the ground. His prosthetic detaching. Two agents forcing a one-legged veteran face down on concrete. The bystander's cell phone video, already uploaded to social media, had been viewed 300,000 times. The caption read, "ICE agents attack disabled combat veteran in wheelchair. This is America?" Walsh's body camera footage, reviewed by the supervisor, corroborated every detail. The prosthetic leg clearly visible. Marcus's calm assertions of citizenship. His military ID being dismissed. The use of force against a man who physically couldn't resist even if he wanted to. Cortez's body camera showed the same. No threat. No weapon. No resistance beyond attempting to maintain balance in a wheelchair. Just a disabled veteran asking why he had to prove his citizenship, then being attacked for it. By 12:15 p.m., the agency's legal department had been notified. By 1 p.m., they were discussing settlement options. By 2 p.m., they knew this case would cost them millions. Marcus's wife arrived at 2:30 p.m. with his birth certificate, his passport, his DD-214 discharge papers, his Purple Heart certificate, and a civil rights attorney named David Okonkwo who specialized in federal misconduct cases. The evidence didn't just collapse. It vaporized, leaving only the indefensible image of two federal agents assaulting a Purple Heart recipient because someone called him foreign-looking. The lawsuit, Marcus Thompson v. United States Department of Homeland Security, Special Agent David Cortez, Special Agent Jennifer Walsh, was filed in federal court in the Middle District of Florida 21 days after the incident. The complaint was methodical and devastating. Violation of Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable seizure. Excessive force. False arrest. Violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Discrimination based on race. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. Violation of the Rehabilitation Act. Deprivation of rights under color of federal authority. The evidence filled 3 bankers' boxes. Video footage from multiple angles. Body camera recordings. Witness statements from 7 bystanders. Medical records showing Marcus's injuries from being thrown to the ground. His shoulder bruised. His face abraded from concrete. Psychological evaluation documenting post-traumatic stress disorder exacerbated by the detention. Nightmares returning with intensity not experienced since his combat deployments. Military service records proving every element of Marcus's identity. VA disability files showing his 100% rating. Social Security Administration records showing his legitimate appointment on the day of the incident. The anonymous complaint itself so obviously baseless it couldn't survive scrutiny. The government's initial response was predictable. Qualified immunity for the agents. Argument that they were responding to a legitimate tip. Claim that Marcus's resistance justified the force used. The response fell apart during discovery. Depositions revealed that neither agent had conducted any investigation before approaching Marcus. They hadn't verified the anonymous complaint, hadn't checked databases, hadn't looked for corroborating evidence. Cortez's deposition was particularly damaging. Did you see Mr. Thompson's prosthetic leg before you made contact? Yes. Did you see his purple heart cap? Yes. Did you see his military ID when he presented it? Yes. Did any of those things cause you to question the anonymous complaint? No. Why not? Long pause on the deposition transcript. I was following protocol for immigration verification. What protocol requires tackling a one-legged veteran in a wheelchair? No answer. Walsh's deposition was no better. When asked why she didn't intervene when Cortez tipped the wheelchair, she stated she was supporting her partner's actions. When asked if she recognized Marcus was disabled before using force, she said yes. When asked if she considered the optics of 2 federal agents assaulting an amputee, she had no response. The case went to trial 14 months after the incident. The federal courthouse in Tampa was packed daily. Veterans organizations filled the gallery. Disability rights groups, civil rights advocates, local and national media. Marcus testified for 3 days, walking the jury through his life with dignity and precision. His childhood in Jacksonville, his decision to enlist, his deployments to Afghanistan, the day he earned his Bronze Star, the day he lost his leg, his recovery, his medical retirement, his civilian life, his appointment at the Social Security office, the approach by ICE agents, the escalation, the moment the wheelchair tipped and he knew he was going to fall, the feeling of concrete against his face, his prosthetic leg detached and abandoned, being dragged across pavement with one leg, sitting in a holding cell, handcuffed, unable to reach his missing limb. I fought for this country, he told the jury, his voice steady but heavy with emotion. I gave my leg for this country. I came home with a purple heart and scars that will never heal. And federal agents decided an anonymous phone call from a racist was more credible than my military ID, my purple heart cap, and the visible evidence that I'd sacrificed everything for citizenship I was born with. Tell me what else I could have done. What else could I have been? How do I prove I belong when nothing I am is enough? His wife testified about finding him at the ICE office, about his nightmares returning, about their children asking why Daddy was on the news being hurt by police. Constitutional law experts testified about Fourth Amendment violations so clear they were textbook examples of what not to do. Disability rights experts testified about ADA violations, the excessive force, the failure to accommodate. The video footage played in the courtroom repeatedly. Every angle, every moment. The jury watched a disabled veteran in a wheelchair being tackled, his prosthetic ripped off, his body forced to the ground. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Their verdict was unanimous on all counts. The damages award was calculated to send a message that would echo through every federal agency. $17 million total. $6.2 million in compensatory damages for physical injuries, emotional distress, exacerbation of PTSD, violation of constitutional and statutory rights. $10.8 million in punitive damages, specifically calculated to punish the callous indifference to Marcus's rights and disability. Marcus sat quietly as the verdict was read. His prosthetic leg, the same one torn off in the parking lot, planted firmly on the courtroom floor. When the amount was announced, he didn't smile. He simply nodded once. A soldier acknowledging mission complete. The verdict triggered immediate consequences. Cortez was terminated within 48 hours. Walsh was terminated the same day. The supervisor who approved the operation based solely on an anonymous complaint was demoted and reassigned. ICE announced sweeping policy reforms. Mandatory verification of anonymous immigration complaints before enforcement action. Requirements to check federal databases for military service, citizenship documentation, and disability status before contact. Prohibition on use of force against individuals with visible disabilities except in cases of immediate threat to life. Specific training on veterans' rights and disability accommodation. Ban on enforcement actions at federal benefit offices without extraordinary justification and supervisory approval. The Department of Homeland Security issued an agency-wide memo. The parking lot footage became mandatory viewing in training academies. A case study in how bias, failure to investigate, and excessive force combined to create constitutional violations and massive liability. Marcus used a portion of his settlement to establish a foundation supporting disabled veterans facing discrimination. He became a speaker at military transition programs, veterans events, and civil rights conferences. His message wasn't about his victimization but about the systemic failures that allowed it to happen. The anonymous complaint system was reformed. Tips now required more than appearance-based suspicion. Complainants had to provide specific, articulable facts. Anonymous racism could no longer trigger federal enforcement. The Tampa VA hospital installed Marcus's story in their patient advocacy program. Every veteran accessing benefits now received information about their rights, what to do if confronted by law enforcement, and how to report civil rights violations. Marcus returned to his quiet life, but transformed. The settlement provided financial security. More importantly, the verdict provided validation. His citizenship, his service, his sacrifice, finally acknowledged not just by a jury, but by a legal system that held authority accountable for seeing him as less than American. The wheelchair he'd been sitting in that day was preserved as evidence. Later, it was donated to the National Civil Rights Museum. A reminder that the fight for dignity and equality didn't end with any single law or verdict, but continued every time authority assumed someone didn't belong. Marcus Thompson's case answered one question definitively. An anonymous racist's phone call plus federal agents who chose not to investigate equals $17 million in damages, 2 terminated careers, and policy reforms across an entire agency. But it raised harder questions with no dollar amount attached. How many veterans have been profiled, detained, humiliated, and never had the resources to fight back? How many anonymous complaints driven by bias have triggered enforcement actions that destroyed lives without consequence? How many people sitting in wheelchairs, wearing uniforms, carrying proof of service and citizenship are still told to prove they belong? The surveillance footage is still available. The body camera recordings are still played in training. Marcus Thompson's testimony is still quoted in civil rights litigation. The evidence is permanent. But evidence only matters when people demand accountability. When juries refuse to accept qualified immunity as permission to violate rights. When agencies prioritize truth over response times. When society decides that service, sacrifice, and citizenship mean more than anonymous bias. Marcus gave his leg for constitutional rights that federal agents ignored because he was black and in a wheelchair. The jury gave him $17 million because those rights still mean something when defended. The question isn't whether authority will overreach. The footage proves it will. The question is whether we'll remain vigilant enough to demand consequences. If you believe disabled veterans deserve respect, not tackles. If you believe Purple Hearts should mean more than anonymous complaints. If you believe constitutional rights apply equally regardless of race or disability, hit that subscribe button. Because accountability requires witnesses, and justice requires people willing to watch, record, and refuse to look away.